You're listening to Art of the Unknown, the podcast about traveling inwards, outwards, and onwards. Hey guys, and welcome back to the second part of last week's episode. Today, I want to specifically talk about using your intuition while traveling. This is going to be a very important topic for anyone wanting to travel, but maybe they're a little bit afraid or they don't think they can do it on their own. And the best advice that I can give to anyone wanting to travel or traveling or whatnot is I think anyone can travel as far or as wide as they desire as long as they have the tools to do so. And the number one tool that you are going to need to rely on is going to be your intuition. This is not just so you can travel safely, but it's going to increase your overall experience of traveling as a whole. Okay, so why is using your intuition imperative while traveling? Okay, so you are going to be in an unknown place. You're going to be in an unknown surrounding. You are going to be probably in that country the only person that you can trust. With that being said, you are going to have to be able to install and maintain that sense of trust and understanding and guidance within yourself first before it can be practically played out in the world. Okay, you have that guidance inside of you. You just have to figure out how to use it, which is why I 100% believe that anyone can travel as long as they are willing to use and listen to their intuition, because that is the thing that is going to guide you, not just get you where you need to go, but is going to get you there safely and is going to give you the best experience while doing so. So like I said before, you have that guidance system within you. You just have to figure out how to use it. I'm not saying that I have it all figured out. Absolutely not. I am still learning. I am still making mistakes, but hopefully my experiences can help someone maybe find and understand their own guidance system, or maybe it'll just help somebody avoid making some of the mistakes that I've made by learning how and why I have failed in trusting myself in the past. So trusting your intuition is going to have to come through experience. You're going to have to do things that you shouldn't do in order for you to realize why you shouldn't do them again. And I think one of the key factors here in learning how to trust your intuition and start using it practically and applying it into your life is you're going to have to reflect a little bit and look at yourself and ask yourself questions like, how did I feel in that circumstance? Why did I feel that way? What did I do? What was the outcome? And I think by understanding yourself, you're going to be able to know how your intuition speaks to you and ultimately why you need to listen to it. So how to use your intuition while traveling. I'm going to share with you a few of the lessons that I have learned in regards to this topic with hopes that it can maybe help give you some insight into your own little guidance system that you got going on down there. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is when you're trying to understand and use your intuition, you're going to need to do what you're comfortable with. This is going to sound like a contradiction, I know, because I'm up in here trying to tell people to go step out into the unknown, go into uncharted territories of the world and yourself. But I want to say that when it comes to using your intuition, you're going to need to listen to yourself, and it's going to tell you things, and it's going to try to communicate with you the best way that it can. And one of those ways is by letting you know what makes you comfortable and what makes you uncomfortable. Okay. There's a time and a place to push yourself, and there's going to be a time and a place not to push yourself. it's going to be difficult to decipher between what your intuition is telling you and what your mind is telling you to do. I know that. I get that. All I'm saying here is by realizing when you are uncomfortable doing something and when you're not, that's going to show you that maybe you're not necessarily ready for it. Maybe that's not the path you need to take right now. And maybe that's just not something that you're ready for. There's going to be a time and a place for a calculated risk. And when it comes to overall travel and overall safety, there's going to be some things you need to maybe take it a step back with, okay? So an example of a time that I went against this was going to Morocco, okay? I was not ready for Morocco. Absolutely not. It was only the second country that I had ever been to. I thought that, I've already left the country. That means I can go anywhere and I'm ready for it. No, that's not the way it works, Sarah. So I had that feeling, maybe not Morocco, maybe not. I don't know about Morocco. I don't know if I want to go to Morocco, but in my head I was like, well, there's no reason for me not to want to go to Morocco, right? I haven't heard anything bad about Morocco. These people here are saying it's a great place to go. They love Morocco. So why wouldn't I go? Well, the reason being is that I should have listened to my intuition telling me that, hey, you know what, Morocco is a big step. I don't think you're ready. And that is definitely a place that I did not need to go. Okay, it was basically a week-long panic attack. I was not ready for Morocco. I had the ultimate culture shock. Yes, I learned a lot, obviously, but I did not have fun. I thought I was going to die in Morocco. I did not think I would survive. And that's just an example of doing something that I was not comfortable with, but I did it anyways because my mind was telling me, you're fine, Jerry, go for it. You're going to do it. You're good. No, that's not the case. So I went to Morocco and I was not ready, and I pushed myself way too far. That did not need to happen, but it did. A lesson learned. Move on from it. Okay. So let's see here. Another way that I feel like you can tap into your intuition is by understanding and listening to when you are just purely getting a bad feeling about it. It's going to take kind of stepping out of the mind a little bit and really trying to focus on the body. Pay attention to parts of the body. Pay attention to what they're telling you. Maybe if you feel, I don't know, your heart beating or like a twist in your stomach, or just there's going to be physical signs that you should not do something. And that is your body and your intuition telling you that, hey, no, that is not the direction that you need to go. Okay. And another example is back when I was studying abroad in Thailand, I made the mistake by getting on these motorbikes with these guys with my friend, and I should not have done it, okay? I had a bad feeling everywhere telling me that, hey, you shouldn't do this, but you know what? I did it anyways because in my mind, I thought, what can go wrong? All of my classmates are about 100 yards away. I'm with my friend right now, and you know what? I've got on motorbikes with strangers before. What's the difference, right? So in my heart, I had a bad feeling about it. But in my mind, I was rationalizing why it was fine, why it didn't matter, why it wasn't a bad idea. So I did it anyways. And I think at that point, I wasn't strong enough to say no. And I also wasn't strong enough to recognize when my intuition was obviously telling me that this was a bad idea. So me and my friend hopped on the back of these motorbikes, and basically what happened is they drove us maybe 500 feet up a hill, turned off a dirt road, and basically attempted to try to rape us. And we got away relatively unharmed, But the point being is that looking back, I had those intuitive feelings. I knew that this was not the path that I should be taking. I knew that this was a bad idea, and I felt that I should not have done it. It was completely obvious, but I felt like I wasn't at a point where I am now that I can be like, no, like I don't understand why I'm having these reactions and these feelings, but I'm going to listen to them and be like, no, I don't have to. Plus, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. If you have a bad feeling about something, no is all you need to say. That is a complete sentence, okay? You do not have to explain yourself to anyone, especially in terms of what you do and where you go in the life that you are living. Okay, you do not have to explain yourself to anyone. And also, your intuition does not have to make sense. It doesn't. And sometimes it's not going to. Sometimes you are going to be in a situation that you're going to have to leave and you're going to have to get out of, and you're going to have to be able to do so without needing to explain it to anyone. And sometimes it may not even make sense to yourself. So, point being, lesson learned is really understanding when your body is telling you something. It's understanding it, but also listening to it and acting upon it, okay? Because you can get all these feelings and these signs from your body all day long, but unless you're going to do something about it, it's just as bad as you not listening or getting those signs in the first place. So yeah, that was another example when I definitely should have listened to myself and acted based on what I was feeling and my intuition, and I didn't. I'm not trying to put the blame on myself for what happened. I'm just simply reflecting on the situation and seeing what I can take away and what I can learn from it. And I've definitely learned a few things, okay? Just a few. So since we're talking about mistakes I've made while abroad, let's just keep the ball rolling, okay? So there is this one time in Ecuador, I was hanging out with these guys. We were just, I don't know, seeing sights, hanging out, drinking some beers, whatever. And towards the end, they asked me to trade money with them. And it was a mistake. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I felt like it was a bad idea. I knew it was a bad idea, but I still did it anyways. And of course, it ended up being fake, which was stupid. I know, it was so freaking stupid. That's like traveling 101. Do not trade money with anybody. Common sense. I know it was wrong, yet I did it anyways. And this is the mistake that I feel I had the hardest time forgiving myself for. It's because, like I said, in my mind, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was a bad idea. I knew it was stupid. I knew I didn't owe them anything. There was no reason for me to even trade or even want to trade or like even need to trade. Like, absolutely not. And then two is that I had a bad feeling. 100%. I had a gut feeling. I was like, this is wrong. This feels wrong. I am uncomfortable about this situation. I want to leave the situation. I don't like it here. And yet I still did it anyways. So it wasn't the fact that I ended up losing about $100, which isn't, in the span of things, isn't really a big deal. But what really bothered me is that I didn't listen to myself. I didn't listen to my intuition. I did not listen to my mind. I went against everything that was telling me that it was wrong, and I still did it. And I was very angry at myself. And I think I was so angry is because I went against everything that I had basically learned up until that point. I know that common sense and intuition are my best guides, and I went against both. And I was traveling alone at that point, and I pretty much felt that I had failed myself. Yes, I know I'm being a little bit hard on myself, but that's just the way I am. I'm not just saying all these things because they're rules or things that you should not do while traveling. I'm trying to explain what happened, but also why you shouldn't do it. And I think the why is the important part, because that's the part that's going to stand true. The whys like I said about using your intuition and using your common sense, those can be applied to almost every circumstance, whether you're abroad or not. And I think understanding those whys and understanding when those feelings come up and when you listen to them and when you didn't listen to them and what happened afterwards, I think understanding those whys are going to help you to understand yourself and your own system and your own intuition, and then making the best decisions while you can while you're traveling. And when it comes down to it, when it's only you and your intuition and those are the decisions and those are going to be the choices you face, and then it's going to come down to you and you're going to know what to do at that time. So yeah, there have been some mistakes that I've made, and those are probably the only major ones I can think of. But looking back on my traveling career, or whatever you want to call it, I really don't think I feel like I've done the best that I could at the time given, and I'm okay with the mistakes that I've made. And ultimately, I really don't think they're that bad. Yeah, the whole Thailand motorbike thing probably sounds worse than it is, but considering all the places that I've gone and been and lived and walked on this earth, I still maintain the belief that your intuition is going to be your best guide. Okay, so those were just some times that I have failed in using my intuition and some mistakes that I have made. So enough about that, please. Now I want to talk about times in which my intuition has been right and that I have been guided correctly, which is going to be the rest of the time, okay? So like I said before, your intuition is going to come to you as a signal of what you shouldn't do or a direction you shouldn't take, but it's also going to come to you as a sign of what you should do and where you should go and what path you want and need to walk down. So just as much as you not understanding why you shouldn't do something, you're probably going to be just as confused as to why a certain place is calling your name or why you're being pulled in a certain direction. So in traveling, you are going to have to make some decisions. You are not just going to have to decide what to do in that moment, but you're going to have to decide where to go and especially which countries you want to go to. And when it comes time to go in this direction and make these decisions, you're going to have to not just rely on your own intuition towards and go towards what feels right, but you're also going to have to deal with other people's fears and opinions and your own fears and opinions about certain places and why you should or shouldn't go. So there's going to be some pushback. You're going to feel like you're being drawn to a place. You're going to feel like that is the direction you want to go. But you're probably going to be a little hesitant. You're going to feel like maybe that's not the safest place, or maybe that's not a good idea, or maybe you just simply shouldn't do it, or you're afraid to, or you don't want to do it. But the thing is that when your intuition is telling you something, it is for a reason. So if you're being drawn to a certain place, there's a reason for it, and you're only going to know once you get there. So a major part of listening to your intuition is going to be listening to it despite all of the other things and thoughts and people and fears telling you that you shouldn't go in that direction. And you wanting to do something or go to a specific country or place, that is for you to decide. And it doesn't have to make sense to other people. And you know what? It's not going to. And especially traveling as a single solo female, there's a lot of places that people think that I shouldn't go or things that I shouldn't do simply because of my gender, okay? And if I had to listen to all these people, there's a lot of places and experiences that I would not have had. So one of the examples that I can think of is I knew that buying my ticket to South America, that is something that I wanted to do. That is something that I needed to do. And that is a place I was calling my name. I knew I wanted to travel. I knew I was going to travel. But it was South America that was calling me to it. Why? I don't know. Hindsight is 2020, and now looking back, I realize why I had those experiences and what they meant to me. But before I left, all I knew is that South America was calling my name, and I got a little bit of pushback just because I was going there by myself. I had never been to that part of the world. I had no experience down there. Yet, I had to get through all of the mental fears, not just within myself, but other people. And even though I was afraid, I admitted I was afraid to go there, I still had this gut feeling that that is where I belonged. And by listening to that gut feeling and listening to my intuition, I went on the journey and the trip that I knew I needed 100%. I have no doubt about that. And another place that was specifically calling me to it was Colombia. And yes, I got a lot of fearful reactions from people because, it's history of, say, violence and drugs and all of that. Like, I get it, people, but that was also, 20 years ago or so. Anyways, I got a lot of pushback about me wanting to go to Colombia. And if I had listened to other people's fears and a little bit of my own, which were only fears because of what other people were saying, I would not have had that experience. And Colombia, to this day, is still one of my favorite countries. And being there, I saw no reason why I did not belong in Colombia. And again, that is my point, is that you are going to feel drawn to a place and you're going to want to go there and experience it. But it's not always going to make sense, and it's not going to be the logical thing to do in other people's minds and sometimes your own mind. But that is your intuition telling you that that is where you belong at that moment in time. So my point being is that, yes, there are going to be examples when you go against your intuition, and there's also going to be examples of when you need to follow it because it has something good in store for you. It has something that you need in order to move forward in this life, in order to grow spiritually, in order to make the best of this existence that we have here. Or I really believe that going in the direction of places that are calling your name is one of the key factors or ways to follow your intuition. If you keep coming up with this name of a place in your mind for some reason, you can't explain it, and it keeps on coming back to you, that is a sign that you need to go there. And there have been many, many places that I've had that experience with. And you know what? I always try to go. If something is calling my name, I try to go towards it because there is a reason. And listening to your intuition isn't always about avoiding harm. It could also mean doing something or being somewhere that you want and need to be because it's for a higher good and for a higher purpose. And at the end of the day, we are all spiritual beings, okay? We have that sense. We have that something else. We have that connection to something that is outside of us, okay? And by using that connection, that is how we go in the direction of what feels good and what feels right, okay? And for some people on this earth, traveling and having these new experiences and seeing the world and seeing yourself differently, those are going to bring people the most joy. And becoming aware of yourself and the planet and everything that is within it, that right there is a relationship to our spirits. And that I feel is something that is very, very empowering. And I really think that when you're being guided by your intuition, you're going to be able to experience and become aware of not just the energy that you bring into an environment, but also the energy that is around you and how that energy ultimately affects you. And extending your awareness beyond yourself out into the universe, that is where you're going to feel the most connection to not just other people and not just the earth, but to this whole reality that we're all living in right now. So using your intuition while traveling, it is very important, it is imperative, and it is probably, without a doubt, the best guide that you can have. So even if you haven't left yet and you are still contemplating traveling or whatnot, I think that no matter where we are in life and in this world, I think that increasing the channel between yourself and your higher being, or whatever you want to call it, that is going to not just benefit you and assist you while traveling, but just living and existing in this world as a whole. So in my last episode, I talked a little bit about how to specifically increase your intuition just in general. So you can always go back and listen to that. But yeah, just doing everyday things. It doesn't have to be while you're abroad. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to go out without having any, GPS or whatnot, and simply just walking and going. And whenever it comes time for me to make a decision as to go left or right, I really just ask myself, I'm like, what direction should I go in? What feels right? And just being guided by that has never failed me. And that's something that everyone can do, not just while they are traveling, but anywhere, your hometown, just anywhere you can do that. So yeah, that wraps up today's episode, guys. If you have any questions, you can always email me. And yes, it was fun talking to you again. Okay, well, I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.